Okay, welcome back. Before the break, I mentioned the VAT tax, which is a European-style value-added tax. What it is in every stage of a product's life, okay, let's say we're making widgets. In every stage of that widget's life, from getting the minerals out of the ground to going to the factory to getting to you, to getting to the retailer and then getting to you, there will be some taxes added at every stage of production. Europe has it, a lot of countries have it. Now, Paul Volcker, who worked in the Reagan administration but is now an informal advisor to President Obama, indicated yesterday that he did not think a VAT tax was, quote, a toxic idea. And then he said, if at the end of the day we need to raise taxes, we should raise taxes. Now, if the Obama administration goes down this road, Chris, this will be a huge blown promise of his not to raise taxes on the middle class. A VAT tax is a very regressive tax. It hits the middle class and the lower classes much more intensely than it hits the upper classes. What do you think? Is this inevitable?
Well, I think it's inevitable, and I also think it's stupid policy. I mean, there's an election that's about to happen May 6th in the UK. If we want to look at the destruction of an economic system, we look at the UK, we look at the VAT, we look at how people are living in the UK. A lot of that conversation in the UK election has to do with taxes. And by the way, they also have a government-run healthcare system. So the toxic combination of a government-run healthcare system and the VAT, not to mention the fact that, you know, when we look at who is suffering in this whole thing, this idea of raising taxes on the middle class, I think, is inevitable. You call it a tax, you call it whatever it is that you want to, but at the end of the day, I think we're going to be taxed to death. And that is a serious consideration. This notion of allowing the Bush tax cuts to expire, and this whole notion of essentially saying, well, you know, if you make $200,000 a year or more, you're rich. I'm not quite sure how much sense that makes. Well, actually, I am quite sure how much sense it makes. None.
Let me just stay with you for a moment, Chris. Obama has this deficit commission going, right? Yeah. And he's got, it's really outweighed by Republicans to Democrats, but that's the president's prerogative. Sure. Elections have consequences. Yeah. So the Democrats have 12 members, I think, or Republicans have 6 members on this commission. That, to me, is going to be a fig leaf for raising taxes across the board and instituting this VAT tax, right? Well, yeah. And the question is, if Obama were really serious about deficit control and debt control and reining in federal spending, he would not just have signed a $2.6 trillion new health care entitlement.
Absolutely. I think that's true. I also think that this is classic Washington. So what's going to happen is we have studied the issue, and the commission now has come up with this idea. And so now the commission has recommended that we decide to raise taxes. So go ahead and blame it on another commission in D.C. I mean, that's just kind of the way the D.C.
What I have to say, Chris, about your analogies isn't...
Let him finish.
Are you done, Chris?
I mean, your premise about England, you say they sort of imply they also have a government health system. We don't have a government-run health system. They have socialized medicine where doctors work for the government. So that's a big difference. Anyway, the thing we should focus on, I think, you know, the Republicans get very upset with the corporate taxes, and there's one in the health care bill that's gotten a lot of press, and all it is, you know, for retiree drug benefits from the 2003 prescription drug plan, corporations were getting 28% subsidy from, you know, the government, and that was tax-free, and they were able to write off their full 100% contribution to retiree benefits. It's just not a fair thing. And with the health care bill, all it does is you still get the 28% tax-free, but you pay taxes on you know, you don't get a tax break on money that you didn't spend. So I think that's just fair, and that's what we need across the board. Fair taxes.
Wealth redistribution.
No. I'm talking about corporate. That's code words. And social justice too.
Killing the free market.
No. It's being fair. It's being fair.
Fair.
Yeah.
Those are buzzwords. Those are code words for wealth redistribution.
Yeah, social justice is a buzzword.
It's not about redistribution.
Corporate. They have it already, and they're very rich.
In fact, last week, Joe Biden, and I know because I played this audio clip on my radio show, said, well, you can call it wealth redistribution, or you can call it just being fair, and that's what I prefer to call it.
Well, I know that's the big buzzword now, but I mean, the point is...
My point. Liz,
well,
go ahead.
They're doing very well, corporations, and they'll keep doing well.
We've heard you say it about 8 times.
So, Liz, when you say you're finished, that takes time.
Here's where Chris has a very interesting point about the flim-flam of this administration. The whole business of protecting Obama from anything that looks in any way that it will hurt the average American, or any American for that. But point a commission, have some cutout, as the CIA calls. Does everybody know what that word means? Use a cutout.
Right.
You know, but anything, I'm rather surprised, I must say, at Paul Volcker. The only thing I can attribute it to is senility, because this is a really bad idea. And all the average American cares about and knows about, and especially that poor guy out there, like so many, who doesn't have a job, all they care about is, how much more can I pay in taxes? I can't afford to live in America anymore.
The American taxpayer is screwed to the wall right now, and now they're going to add a whole other layer of taxes. As Chris points out, they are probably going to allow the Bush tax cuts to expire at the end of next year. Now they're going to add on a VAT tax.
But you're also for deficit reduction. How do you do it without any kind of tax?
You cut taxes, and you pair that with cutting spending.
The answer,
this administration is only going to raise taxes, and the
that's
spending
something
is
the
out
left
of
will
control.
never do, is cut spending.
and neither will the right. It's something they both agree on.
Something
Both
the
parties
right
agree
is.
on.
That's
Both believe in
That's
big
right.
government. The conservatives and liberals. The only difference is
That's not
liberals
true.
don't believe in big deficits.
yes.
Republicans believe in big deficits. You know what? Don't worry about the VAT tax, Monica. Don't worry, Chris. Don't worry, Liz. You're absolutely right. It's a terrible idea. It'll never happen. I'll make a bet with anyone at this room who wants to make a bet. It will never happen. It is toxic. It's a non-issue.
So you
Obama's
think the
not gonna
Democrats are not going to do it?
Never.
Obama's
Never
not going
in
to
a
sign it?
million years will they do a VAT tax. Don't worry about it. Now, the Bush tax cuts. One of the things that they will allow
Can't
them
believe
to
we're back
expire
to
for the rich. In other words, if you make over $250,000, you may have to pay the same rates you did under the Clinton years, which are far, far less than they pay in England, far, far less than they pay in Europe. And you know what? We have a massive deficit. You know, George Bush spent all this money on prescription drug bills and on their tax cut and on wars and on Halliburton and on oil companies. That bill has come due. And we have to, well, let me finish my point, because I let everybody finish their points.
Quickly, 'cause I wanna
all right,
change
at the end of the
gears.
day, that's not going to happen. And Obama will keep his promises, and the Democrats will keep their promises. The only way that's going to happen is if you kick Obama out of office, because I guarantee you the Democrats won't do it.
Well, I'm just surprised to learn that $250,000 a year is rich.
Well, maybe,
Exactly.
maybe you don't know a lot of ordinary
shocking.
Americans,
Well,
Chris.
wait
Exactly,
a minute.
exactly.
You can talk about individual income at 200,000, or you
Or
can
you
talk
ta-
about small
small businesses,
businesses.
precisely.
And they're the ones that are absolutely getting clobbered.
But they get a tax cut under the health care
Clobbered.
law, which is terrific. They get the biggest tax cut in American history under the health care law.
That's interesting, Mark. I'm glad you brought that up. Today's
Nice segue.
McClatchy Washington Bureau has a piece about small businesses having no idea what to make of this health care bill. And a top small business lobby, head of a small business lobby group, one of the nation's biggest, says that small business owners are freaking out as a result of the fees, taxes, and coverage mandates related to the overhaul. The next question that comes out of small business owners' mouths is, what do I have to do right now? Answer, they need to start talking with their accountant, depending on how they're organized, what industry they're in, and whether they're offering insurance now and what kind they will be offering. We suggest they talk to their agent or their broker. And when you mentioned the tax cut for small businesses that offer employees health coverage, they now say that many small businesses are not going to be able to participate because they're going to be outclassed by it. So they're not even going to get that tax.
Here's the rule, because most
tax
people
credit.
don't know it. There's a reason why small business owners are freaking out. They don't know what's in the law. If you have 30 employers or less, you will pay less. You will get help from the government to pay for your employees. Now, if you have more than 50 employees, I don't consider you a small business, and it's true, there is a mandate.
You know what? There seems to be a lot of crazy loopholes in this bill that are going to
People need
affect
to learn
a
what's
lot
in
of
the bill.
small businesses.
Yeah,
Chris,
and
you want to
the
address
fact of the matter is, I know someone who has a small business, and as a result of this healthcare bill, and that person has contacted her accountant and all of that kind of stuff, rather than be subjected to that, she's made a business decision to close her doors.
Well, I think that's a real mistake if she has less than 30 employees, because she's basing it on misinformation. She will make money on this health care bill if she has fewer than 30 employees. That's in the bill. And if someone tells her to close her doors, that's bad advice.
Okay, a couple of emails here. Pam says, we are debt-free, own our own home, put 2 kids through college without any help from the government. We bring in less than $100,000 a year. If we can do it, everyone else can do it.
Hear, hear.
And Kenneth says,
And they got a tax cut under
Monica,
Obama.
if VAT gets approved, there goes our hope that American-made products will survive. Many American manufacturers will have to move jobs to China just to survive. Small business owners will close. That was your point, Chris. This has to stop now before it gets implemented.
It won't happen.
And Bob says, what will they tax next? Sleeping, breathing, sex, walking on the sidewalk, yada, yada.
I don't know of a single Democratic bill in Congress to do the VAT. Not a single member, not even Maxine Waters.
They're waiting for this ridiculous debt commission
Yeah, but the thing
to
about
come
the
in with a
commission-
recommendation and say, well, I guess we need to
It
do
requires 14 people to get a recommendation. That means they've got to have at least 1/3 of the Republicans appointed by the Republican leadership
look, you're going to
have
get
to
Alan
agree.
Simpson because he was never a tax cutter, so you're going to get at least one Republican there. That's why he was put on the debt commission to begin with.
Another commission, right?
Another commission.